Hey everyone, this is Jack with the Cardboard Herald, and this is a video that has been requested many times, especially with the popularity of Jaws of the Lion right now, and I've been doing a lot of Gloomhaven content otherwise, and people have seen that I've used the Gloomhaven Helper app, so this is kind of like a small tutorial, little overview and review of the Gloomhaven Helper app, what I use it for and what I think you may find value out of it. So what is this thing? I mean, when you open it up, it's just kind of bare bones. You don't see all that much. And the functionality, we have add characters and we have a little menu here. Really, the purpose of the Gloomhaven Helper app is to take care of the different bookkeeping that you have in Gloomhaven, as well as a lot of the monster related components, the AI driven components, and it's going to consolidate a lot of those things and take them away from your table and replace them with a laptop or a phone or an app. So if you were just opening this up and wanting to utilize it for a session of Gloomhaven, let's say Jaws of the Lion, we would start with this menu in the upper left here, and we're going to set a scenario. We'll start off with the beginning. So here you can see there's different difficulty levels that scale based off of character level and the amount of challenge you want to have. There's a flag for solo if you want to adjust for having perfect information as per recommendations. And then we also have Jaws of the Lion check marked here in the bottom. We definitely want to have that on because that's how it knows that mission 1 is mission 1 of Jaws of the Lion versus base Gloomhaven. We click OK, and that populates all the monsters that are going to be in the mission, or all the types of monsters. Then a great way to start is going to be to add the different tags of the monsters. So because each standee for the monsters has their own number, we're going to add either elite or regular enemies. Let's say that we have 1, 2, 4, and 5 happen to be the normal enemies, and then we have a 3 and 6 elite here. You can see that they have independent health values, and you could also register different status effects and stuff going on here. We'll get more into that in a little bit, but we haven't finished setting up yet because we don't have our characters. Now, we go over here to the menu again, and you have add characters, and you can see you have access to all the different characters of Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion. The secret characters, the unlockable characters, are obfuscated here so you don't get spoilers. And then you have your basic characters here. Let's go ahead and pick Void Warden and let's say the Hatchet, because I really dig the Hatchet. We have our characters here, and this is now like a set up game. What we do from here is we then do the normal things that we would do when playing Gloomhaven itself. Characters would pick, or players rather, would pick their cards, and then when they're ready to flip those cards over and declare their initiative, you go ahead and do that. And you then put in whatever the initiative number is. So let's say the Hatchet does a 28, Void Warden does a 56, a little bit slower, and then we click Draw. Well, Draw is going to populate a card that dictates everything happening for the common Vermling Raider, just like in the game itself, except you don't have the monster profile card, you don't have the monsters deck, and you have all these different resources here in order to keep track of all their statuses, health, etc., etc. And it conveniently already arranged the initiative order based off of the card drawn. And you can even see here that if we click on the card, we can see what cards have already been played out of the Vermling deck. And there's a little reshuffle symbol here, so the app actually knows to reshuffle the Vermling deck at the conclusion of this round. Now, once you actually start playing your cards, you may have different effects happen. Let's say you gain some experience because you played your favorite, and then you also happen to, let's say, strengthen yourself, or you did something that ended up hurting yourself, like giving yourself poison. You can have multiple status effects on a character, and as you can see on their profile here, it keeps track of that. One of the things about this app is that just like putting tokens on or taking them off, you do have to manually enter this stuff. It has no knowledge of what's going on at the table and all the different things that can interact with status effects and with different values like experience and gold. So you do have to tell it when you pick up gold, when you lose strengthen, when you lose poison, but it does give you helpful reminders. So think of it more as like a bookkeeping and organizational tool. Okay, so let's take it from the top here. The hatchet is going to take their turn. They do something, they get their experience points, and they also, let's say, do some damage to some of the vermlings here. Number 1 ended up taking 2 damage. Number 2 ended up taking 3 damage. And wow, they got a critical hit or something on number 5 that ended up killing it. So you can either drop it down to 0 health this way, or you can just straight up axe it. I love the functionality of that. Either way, whenever I exited that menu, it would have removed that character from it. Now, then we get on to the common Vermling Raider's turn. Now, here you have the indicator of what needs to happen, but you're going to perform that all yourself, just like you normally would with Gloomhaven. But when they actually do an attack, you have the attack modifier deck on here, so that way you could flip up and see what the modifier is. And if they were muddled or they had strengthened, just like normal, you would flip 2 cards and then either take the best or worst of them. This deck is live, so it's going to know if there are curses in it, if there are blessings in it. It's going to know if it needs to reshuffle at the end of the round because it had a critical hit or it had a miss. And you can modify these things by saying, we did an attack that cursed the enemy. It will know to populate those into the deck. And likewise here, you have blesses, you have the different status effects for the characters. Again, if a character had a status effect like, let's say, wound, it's not going to automatically reduce the health of that character every round or that enemy, that unit, but it has a reminder here of the different status effects that that unit has, so that way you, at the beginning of your turn, can make sure to apply that damage. And you may have seen that pop up where it had the poison token to remind you, hey, do you need to do an extra damage because they were poisoned? Now, whenever you finish taking a turn, you can just click on that unit category in order to show that it's done. It grays it out. That's just a convenient little tracking thing. You don't have to do that at all. You can still have them all brightly colored. So then you just keep on going. Let's say that the Void Warden didn't actually do any damaging effects, but they did add some elements to the board. Let's say they added darkness to the board. You just click up there, and then they had no other effects except for maybe collecting an experience, and they did something that caused themselves some damage. They took damage from a trap, which if you notice at the bottom here, there's a trap icon that, based off of the level, says that you take 3 damage from a trap, you get 6 experience at the end of a mission, you get 2 gold for every coin you have, and it's level 1, and you can adjust the difficulty level again mid-game if you need to. Anyway, back to our little mission example here. If we went to next round, you can see that the element is now waning. It resets everything and allows you to put in initiative again for your characters, and then you just go ahead and keep on playing until you need to add any monsters, you need to change some effect. Let's say here we had a 80, we had a 12, and we draw. There you go. And it just takes care of everything for you. This doesn't seem like all that much when you're on the first mission, but when you get into new scenarios, like let's say scenario 4, the more monsters that you have, the more things on the table, the more complex character you have as they become greater level and the higher difficulty of the scenario, there's just more and more to keep track of in Gloomhaven. And what this does is it consolidates so much that would otherwise be necessary in order to drive the game into one small package that makes it easier to set up, much more manageable to play, far easier to take down, and it becomes a much less intimidating experience and a much more accessible experience. So it just overall improves Gloomhaven. Now, I'm not going to say that it is going to be for everyone. Some people are very against app integration in games, but this is by far one of the most successful third-party integrations of an app that I have seen, and it has dramatically improved the playability of Gloomhaven and Jaws of the Lion to me, where it is so much more frequently hitting the table than it otherwise would have if I had to bother with all these elements. That said, I am the type of person who does feel kind of bad about components in a game that don't get used because I'm not playing with that particular module or I have an app replacing them. And sometimes I'm like, geez, man, there's a lot of paper and cardboard in that box that I'm not taking advantage of, and I want to play with my toys. But what I gain is so much more than any amount of emotional anxiety that I feel being detached from my little cardboard chits. And this is just such a beautiful thing that is of so much value for a relatively low cost, especially considering the overall cost of Gloomhaven, that I think it's a highly recommended tool that anyone who has even a moderate inclination that they could be cool with an app integrated into a board game should take advantage of. It is that good. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, if you want to see a follow-up, if you want to see a more in-depth tutorial or overview, or have any sort of Gloomhaven or other non-Gloomhaven related content you want to see, then definitely let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.